Hey everyone, it's Jeannie for ScrapbookPal.com, and today I am back to share this card with you featuring Altenew's Fresh Blooms and Modern Hello stamp set. For my background, I will be actually focusing on alcohol inks. So I know that this stamp set is a layered stamp set and it's super gorgeous, but I just wanted to go with something simple and create an alcohol background. I've kind of gone back into using alcohol inks, and that's what I'm doing today. I have 3 alcohol ink colors. I have Tranquil, which is the blue, Intrigue, which is the pink, and these are the pearl versions, so it has like extra glimmer in it and extra shine. I'm also using the Mixative in silver, which you want to be very sparingly with because it does overpower a panel of alcohol inks. I will also be using it along with the alcohol blending solution and the alcohol blower, which will help me push everything around and mix everything and kind of just create that alcohol effect that everyone loves. I'm not a pro at alcohol inks at all. I kind of am still super hesitant to use them because they always turn out funky. It doesn't look good, and I really usually hate how it turns out. So when I create these panels, I end up with a ton of them, but then I realize that afterwards, once you kind of take a step back and you go back to it, you can make any piece of alcohol ink artwork. So I ended up with this one. I really liked it. Like I had said, to use this silver mixative kind of sparingly. I had a chunk of silver in that middle area and I just kept adding blue and blending solution to it to kind of push it out and add additional color. I also added the blending solution to any areas that I felt the ink was super concentrated because I wanted it not to look like clumps. So to add that wispiness, I would add additional ink and then add additional blending solution and kind of blow it out in a way where it looks a little bit more natural, I guess. I wasn't too worried about any extra clumps because I would just cover it up with one of my images or whatever. So I moved on to my stamped images. This is a layering stamp set, but I only use the outline images and I'm stamping it with Gina K's Amalgam Obsidian black ink. I decided to do this because I wanted to color with Copic markers. The alcohol inks themselves kind of draw away your attention to the background, and I wanted to go with simple florals. So for my floral, I decided to go with white flowers because I just wanted to be very neutral, and the way to color white flowers is to use gray markers. You're basically placing all the shadows for a white flower using gray markers and leaving a lot of white space on the floral, which will make the flower look white. Of course, while I'm coloring it, you'll see that this flower looks gray. It does not look white at all, but once you put it up against a colorful background, it will look white. So for the floral itself, I am using C Copic markers and starting with C5, where the darkest areas are. I place them where all the folds of the petals are, and then I will go in with my next lightest color and kind of just blend it out. And as you can see, I add a few creases to petals because you know that they're not super smooth. There's always creases. So I'm adding that dimension to the petal itself, especially the largest one. So I'm just doing that by using flicks. And I work my way down to the lightest color in C00. Once I get that done, I actually will go back with my darkest gray color, which is C7, and add additional shadows to the floral. And I do that because while looking at this, I really wanted the petals to pop, and by adding that C7, it will pop. So you'll see that in just a bit. So once I add that C7, you can see that it really does add that extra shadow to it. I do this because sometimes when you're using the darkest color, C5, it might look really dark, but once you blend it out with additional colors, it kind of lightens up. Also, Copic markers are alcohol markers, so they do dry down a bit. Although this looks quite gray right now, it will dry down, and once you put it against a colorful background, it'll look even more white. For the stamen portion of the flower, I decided to go in with a golden yellow, mainly because I just didn't want anything to contrast with my alcohol background. I could have used a neutral like brown, but I really wanted something of color to really pop. For the leaves itself, I just went in with a 3 combination green Copic colors, and those were perfect. It just was a neutral, and you won't really pay too much attention to the leaves. And once I finish coloring this, I do the same thing for the other image that I stamped above. I just went ahead and fussy cut everything and saves you guys the trouble because I colored it the exact same way. For my alcohol panel, I actually cut it down 1/4 of an inch on each side. So it is 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. So this is a 5x7 card, which is a little bit larger, but I needed the larger size to add the sentiment, feature a large portion of the alcohol ink, and also add 2 florals. For the sentiment itself, I am using the sentiment from Modern Hello, and I actually really like this sentiment because it's pretty unique. So you stamp the hello in big block letters, and you have an addition to those block letters. So it's a second layered stamp, and you have a variety of words. So you can use bestie, friend, mom, dad, and it works. And I went with bestie because I just thought it was really cute. I really liked the script writing for it, and I'll layer it right on top. So for the hello, I used white embossing powder, and then for the word bestie, I'm actually using Versafine black Onyx ink, and then I'll be adding clear embossing powder on top of it to make it stay because I am stamping on vellum. Vellum is a slick surface, so you definitely want to use heat embossing unless you are willing to wait for the ink to dry on the vellum, which I wasn't. I wanted to create this card and put everything together right away. Once I stamp the word bestie, I'll cover it with clear embossing powder, and then I'll heat set that. And for the sentiment, there are no coordinating dies, so I just went ahead and used a pair of scissors and fussy cut it out. I just liked how the vellum looked on top of the alcohol ink because it doesn't take away from it. I had tried heat embossing on Yupo paper, and it's just so difficult because the Yupo actually warps very easily. So I try to avoid it when possible. So I put the sentiment through my Xryon sticker maker just to add adhesive to the back of my vellum piece. As you know, with vellum, it's really hard to get it to stick without seeing the adhesive behind it. So when I use a double-sided adhesive like the Xryon sticker maker, you can't see the adhesive that's on the vellum. For the alcohol panel, I am matting it on a piece of black cardstock, and I'm putting it in my Misti just because I realized it's easier to see on white versus my black glass mat. So you really can see the contrast and how that black mat really brings something to the card. So I'm just planning out my card, and I kind of thought it would be cute if the flowers were kind of a frame around my sentiment, and that's eventually what it ended up looking like. I just used my liquid glue to add to the back of all my images and quickly adhere it to my card panel. Liquid glue is just the easiest way of adding images, and you don't need to put on too much, but enough to make sure it will stick to your cardstock and the Yupo paper. And I did cut out the leaves a little separate from the image and how it originally looks, and that's because I fussy cut it and there was a piece that was apart, and I just kind of used it as additional decoration. So I kept the main leaf all together, and then I have that extra leaf just to be floating on the side if it was like floating off and into the wind. So I thought that was really pretty as well. And I didn't really want to cover up the white space of it because I just thought it really looked pretty with the alcohol inks between the two florals. But yeah, you can see that although the flowers looked gray previously, now they look white against the color background. And then I'll remove my sentiment from that double-sided adhesive piece and add it to the card. As a finishing touch, I decided to pull out my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen and add additional sparkle to the floral. So this card is just really sparkly, and I'll show it against the light so you can see the sparkle, but it is really pretty. I was really happy with how this card turned out. I thought it just ended up being really elegant, and although I wasn't 100% happy with my alcohol background, I thought it looked really good, and my whole card glimmers and sparkles because of the alcohol ink and the sparkle pen itself. So thanks for stopping by and watching this video. I hope you got some inspiration, and I will see you guys next time for another one. Bye!